Hello and welcome to a new reaction video. My name is Larissa and today I'm going to react to a new Patreon request. Today I'm going to react to a video which is called My Horse Journey 10 Years Scared to Confident. It's a video from Sam van Vliet, and if you maybe have seen my videos before, you might have seen that I've already reacted to a video from her once, which was also a request from the same patron. First I thought, okay, I don't really have a lot with horses, but let's just check it out. I was curious. And then I watched a video. It was about the Mustang training, and surprisingly I found it very interesting. So again, I'm not that much of a horse person, so now I'm just starting this video and I'm a bit like, okay, am I gonna like this? But I'm also very curious because the video is 50 minutes, and from what I read the comments a bit real fast. From what I read is that this girl wasn't even like born into like a horse family, you know? Most people who ride horses, you see that the parents are already very dedicated or something. A lot of times it's like that, but apparently with her that wasn't the case, and she just totally like started this herself, and yeah, now she's, I think, pretty far with this, because when you scroll through her channel there's a lot of inspiring videos, and mostly about her training the horses and all. So yeah, I'm just gonna check it out. It's a 50-minute video. I'm not sure if I'm gonna cut a lot out of it. Of course, it's not a TV show or anything, so it's not really copyright claimed. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. Before I start, I do want to tell you that if you want to request your own TV show episode, movie, just a random video just like this, you can subscribe to my Patreon, and there's different tiers where you can choose from, and there you can request your own things. So check that out if you're interested, and now I'm really gonna watch this.
This video is going to be my riding / equestrian story and journey. I decided to not do like my whole life story / journey because there's just quite a bit to it. Before I got involved with horses, I was a competitive cheerleader, and I did lacrosse and gymnastics, so those all consumed my life.
Damn.
I actually wasn't involved with horses until I was 12. So I've been asked to do one of these for quite a while now, so I figured it's time to try to do it. I just knew it was going to be a lot of work trying to find old pictures and videos, and I was being really lazy about it. I think I'm going to try to make the riding story video right now.
Of course, I already messed up filming, so I'm going to add this in really quick. I guess assumed everyone knew. I'm not from a horse family. I'm the first person in my family to be involved in horses, so I did not grow up on a farm, and I had no prior animal knowledge to everything that I'm about to say.
So it all started in 2011. I used to go to these Girl Scout camps in the summertime for like a week long every single year, and you could pick a different activity to focus on. So one year it might be like scavenger hunts, and another it might be, I don't know, like living outside and like normal camp activities, I guess you would call it, I don't know. In 2011, I chose to do horseback riding as my activity. You know, you go to camp, you do your normal things, and then for the 1 hour every single day you do your specialized activity. So mine was horseback riding, and I had never even touched a horse prior to this.
That sounds fun.
And I decided that I really enjoyed doing it. One of my really big turning points is that I have a cousin who is 10 days younger than me. We're basically the same exact age. And I felt like every single sport or activity I did, except for competitive cheerleading, but like soccer and lacrosse and even dance at a point, every single time I would do a sport and really like it and love it, she would do it and then be so much better than me. So I was like, oh my goodness. So horseback riding, she also did at the same time as me for this camp activity. And they give you an initial rating of like 1 to 5 on your initial beginner level, I guess, how like naturally good you are at it. And I remember, I think she got a 4, so she was pretty good, and I got a 3. So that kind of irritated me that right away I wasn't nearly as good as her at it, and I was like, oh gosh, okay, I have to focus on this and get really good, and I'm gonna do this outside of camp. So I sent a letter home to my mom when I was at camp, and on the envelope of it I was like, P.S. I'm going to start going to Blue Star. And Blue Star is was a draft horse rescue local to where I lived. And my best friend at the time, her name's Maddie, who has been a really good friend of mine since we were little, volunteered there already. As soon as I got back, I started volunteering at this place, and I was a super quiet and shy kid, so it was difficult and weird for me to kind of interact with adults and honestly even other kids. I was just really shy and anxious and nervous all the time. Right away, I remember when I got to Blue Star, my friend Maddie wasn't there all the time, and sometimes it would just be me going to volunteer with this whole entire community and environment I knew nothing about. And I remember one of the times they just handed me a halter and they're like, okay, go bring in so-and-so, whatever horse it was. And mind you, this is a draft horse rescue. These horses, and I'm not exaggerating, are like 20 hands tall. They are huge. Some of them are retired carriage horses, some of them
horses 10 times as big as her.
That people couldn't
even maybe 20.
Manage or wanted to get rid of. There was a huge variety of horses there. So I remember they handed me this draft horse halter and they're like, go bring in this horse. And I'm like, sure. I couldn't figure out how to put the halter on. I remember I put it on like backwards, upside down, and I brought it back, and it was definitely not correct on the horse. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And in this environment,
oh, the tiny one.
Because although there was some like
cute
safety and the adults kind of watching over everything, a lot of us kids were between ages like 12 to 14 volunteering there. I kind of feel like for the most part, we kind of just had to figure it out for ourselves, honestly, and. A lot of trial and error, a lot of things that could have gone wrong, but luckily didn't. I feel like I learned a lot that way. I made a lot of good connections. I used to literally live at that barn. I used to live at Blue Star. I would make beds out of hay bales in the barn aisle and sleep there. We would all stay in the farmhouse. We would be there like 24/7 in the summer.
That is dedication.
Never came home, all of us barn kids. It was a really cool time. And then when I was there, of course, all of us being the young girls we are, were like, this horse is mine, this horse is mine. So we all had our favorites that, you know, we would take out and groom and take care of and like kind of have that little extra special connection with that we would spend time with when we weren't, you know, either working on the garden, out in the back field, or cleaning stalls. That sounds
honestly like so much fun.
General barn stuff. So we had these horses. So I had two. One was named Connor. He was a huge pinto who eventually got adopted out, broke my heart, was so sad. I even went with the whole farm to bring him to his new home in Maine and back, and I just remember being so devastated the whole time. I loved that horse so much. And the other one was named Gracie, who was a young Morgan, I think. She wasn't born on the farm, but she was very young. I think she was 2, maybe 3. And I remember one of the older volunteers at the time really took a liking to trying to teach me things about the horses. So she had me work with this really young horse, and I was a very small, tiny child, as you can see in some of these pictures. Like I was tiny.
Oh, she's 13 there. Jesus, I thought she was like 8, but of course she said that she started this when she was 11 or 12.
But I used to be like an Arabian. Anyways, I had Gracie and Connor, and those were my kind of two. And then when Connor got adopted, and then I think Gracie got adopted too at some point, I was so upset, and they were like, we have another horse coming into the rescue, maybe this could be like your new project to work with. And I was like, I really don't want anything to do with any of the horses. I'd rather just be here, be a volunteer, and not have any of them to my name, because I'm just so heartbroken right now. And this horse comes, and the reason she was coming is because she was too much to handle. She was just unmanageable. She was so difficult. I think she kept breaking out of the pen that they had her in or something. She was just too much of a handful and had too much anxiety. And that horse was Calliope. Calliope came to the farm. I didn't want anything to do with her, but she was kind of assigned mine to work with. And then quickly I fell in love with her, as any young girl would do, because she's a beautiful horse and she's got the long, pretty mane, and you know, she was
pretty,
really a sweetheart, but she knew nothing.
Always when I was a kid, like the horses, the white and black horses, they were my favorite ones. I don't know why. I think because they kind of look like Dalmatians.
But the sweetest, kindest animal ever. But she hated being bathed. She was scared of everything, like desensitizing. Scary. Tying up wasn't good. She was super herd bound. Like, she was just a very anxious horse. And I remember, I think she got away from me a couple times, and then the people at the rescue were like, hey, I think this is too much horse for you. Like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And I'm like, no, this is gonna work. We're gonna make it happen.
I remember how devastated I was when they told me that they didn't think I should work with her anymore because it wasn't working out, and I think that was probably the turning point for me, where I realized that I want to prove people wrong in their limitations.
But honestly, that is so fucked up though, because at first they want her to take care of the horse, And then she's like, nah. And then she starts caring for the horse. And then they're like, nah, not anymore.
Later, I brought her from the rescue to a boarding barn so I could ride a little bit more because I was trying to shift my focus from just doing the groundwork. And I did learn how to drive horses here as well. I'm not nearly as pro at it as some of the other girls are. I know like the realm of it. I'm not an expert, but I did know how to drive before I knew how to ride. I brought Calliope to a boarding barn. And then we went to a couple boarding barns because I quickly realized that there is a lot of drama at boarding barns and it just wasn't that easy.
Going back and editing this, I realized that there were certain things I didn't want to say, I guess, and there was a lot of bullying at all of the barns I went to. It's really hard being a new equestrian and kind of trying to figure it out on your own and not really having any guidance. So like barn after barn, it would just be constant bullying and belittling by adults.
By adults.
Really kids, and they were just awful environments. So that's why I kept switching, and they were mean to Calliope
because
she was a draft cross, and I guess they didn't like that, and it was really difficult. Not to mention I had on top of like my normal anxiety and stress and problems growing up. Yeah, the barn boarding situation was not fun.
We moved to a couple different barns.
Why are adults like that? Why would you bully children?
Her more. Was it correct riding? No, we were just winging it. I had no idea what I was doing. Eventually, I ended up at a barn that was only a couple minutes from my house, which was really convenient because I could not drive yet because I was not 16. Now, of course, when all of this was happening, I had a bunch of part-time barn jobs like cleaning stalls or even grooming horses or just like the normal barn mucking responsibilities or feeding or whatnot. Anywhere from 1 to 4 part-time jobs at any given time from the time that I started high school. And I think I even did some when I was in middle school, honestly. I found a trainer eventually, and I was like, I want to event Calliope. We're going to event. I don't know anything about eventing, but we're going to do it. She came and helped me out, and then after a couple lessons, she's like, I think she would really be good at jumpers. And I was like, sure, okay, that's fine. Yeah, she wasn't really built for eventing, so I'm really glad we didn't go that route. Now, I don't know if she really was built for jumping either, but this horse could jump. She could jump. I don't know how I hung on. I think I hung on because I still had balance and flexibility from being a cheerleader, which I don't have anymore. But that's what was my saving grace in my first couple years with horses. So
I feel like this girl did everything in her life, like every sport you can think of.
And then we started to show at jumper shows.
But then stayed with horse riding.
Of course, initially a bunch of open shows, and then we started to go to rated shows like Vermont Summer Festival and Northeast Benefit. We showed at the Big E one year. We showed at, I think it's called Fairview, maybe? I don't know. The New England Northeast jumper shows. And she did really well. I mean, look at this horse. She's a draft cross. She's a PMU foal. She's got, no record. She was rescued as a foal from going to slaughter because she's PMU foal. I have a video on PMUs if you don't know what those are. She was dominating the jumper arena. The girl riding her,
slay.
She don't know much of what's happening, but this horse, she was good. She gave it her all. She had the best heart ever. So the barn that I had Calliope at, there was a couple boarders there that were really good, and I would ride with them, and then one of them knew that I was into kind of like the horse training stuff because I was working with Calliope for such a long time and training her up to be what she is. And she tagged me on Facebook in a post for an Extreme Mustang makeover that was coming to Massachusetts. This is in 2014. I'm still 14 at the time she tagged me in it. I was 15 at the time of pickup for this. And I was like,
Bro, she's like the same age as me.
So I go on Craigslist.
That's funny.
I know, such a great place. And I find a barn that I could keep the horse at because where Calliope was, they didn't have the required fencing that I needed for the Mustang. So I found a barn, and then I found, again on Craigslist, someone to haul the horse with a trailer that could haul it because I'm not from a horse family. They don't know anything about horses, so I just kind of had to figure this all out by Google and trial and error. So I find someone to haul the horse, and I submit my application. I get accepted. And then it's the day before pickup, and I'm like, I should probably like Google what a Mustang is. I don't really know. So I look it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, that seems a little bit of a stretch for me to do. A little bit of a stretch, girl. You've just worked at a draft rescue with a bunch of no, they're not feral horses. you don't know how to work with a feral horse? So here I am day before pickup, looking up what a Mustang is, realizing that I am super underqualified to do this. I don't even know how I got accepted, quite honestly. And I'm panicking, a little bit panicked. So now I had just turned 15 when I go to pick up the Mustang. So I follow along with the person who's gonna haul the Mustang. We get back, Mustang's unloaded, and I'm like, what do I do? Somehow figure it out. Still showing Calliope and jumpers at this point.
I'm really good at forgetting things. I also did IEA for 2 seasons. I believe it was 2014 and 2015. So I did have a little bit of riding training at this point. Not only from my trainer that was helping me like once a week with Calliope and jumpers, but also I was doing IEA once a week and getting a better seat so I could actually properly ride. So I did have some help there. I was not completely blind. Groundwork though, I was blind there.
Now I have this little Mustang who I named Brazil because of the marking on his hindquarters. And it's really funny to watch back my videos with him, even with links from this time. Like I'd watch him back and I'd be saying hind foot step in a video that's like filmed awful, and it's me asking my horse to yield their hindquarters. So I really just made this stuff up and I wung it. I don't know what I was doing, but I somehow, and I didn't even use YouTube, I remember, because I didn't even know that there was training videos on YouTube. In 2014, I taught Brazil how to bow, how to lay down, how to lunge, how to be haltered and caught, all of the normal tip requirements. And he knew how to ground drive, of course.
Actually, horses are just big dogs, right? You gotta teach them how to sit and stuff like that.
A couple months after the competition, I thought I was gonna keep him, but then I decided I wanted to save another PMU foal, just like Calliope.
However, before he was adopted, I was able to get him started under saddle, then he was adopted, and then I got to still continue working with him under saddle and take him to a few events afterwards, so that was really fun. I'm pretty sure I started Calliope under saddle, but if not, this was definitely the first horse I truly 100% started under saddle, and he was very easygoing and nice, and a first one for me to work with.
She does have so many pictures and videos though of when she was a child, and
his story really quick.
Yeah, training with the horses.
Homes because he's a smaller sized horse,
so I get what she meant with like, oh, it's a lot of work to find all of this.
And he still events, and I think he has his new little girl now, and he lives in Maine, and he's a very valuable, awesome Mustang. I had to rehome him though because I could only have 2 horses at the time, and I wanted to save another PMU foal. That's where Calypso comes into play. So I find Calliope's history and track back the person that originally rescued her, and I found out that she does frequent rescue missions to Canada and has saved like dozens of these at a time before. And she hasn't done one in a couple of years, but I kind of beg her and I'm like, listen, what if we just do at least one more group of them? Can we please do one more group? And she's like, yeah, sure. She goes up there right after the foals are kind of like born for the season, takes a bunch of photos, sends them to me. There was like 200 of them, I think. And I wanted something a little bit lighter boned than Calliope because Calliope is a little bit heavier boned for jumping, and I really like jumping at this point. So I find perfect, cutest little foal, and these are the pictures that I initially saw of her, and I was like, that one. They're like, are you sure? She's kind of like the runt. She's a small one. I was like, yep, that's the one I want. So I picked her out just when she was a couple days old, looking at a few photos of her, and then she came home when she was 4 months old on a big load with a bunch of other babies. Then I brought her to Calliope's barn, and she was a little terror because she also was feral and knew nothing. So that was fun. She was like a whole nother gentling process. She was a lot quicker though and came around a lot faster because Brazil was 2 when I got him, and she was obviously
I feel like it must be so hard to constantly like get rid of those horses.
My first Mustang.
Because she was just talking about the Calliope horse.
Extreme Mustang makeover
and it feels like she went through so much with that horse, and then she's like, yeah, but I want to rescue another horse, and then that horse has to go, but it's so, I don't know if my heart could handle that. Maybe that's why I also cried at the previous video when they had to like find a new home for the horses.
I get Chili as a makeover horse. Chili was really special. So initially I was disappointed because of course everyone wants the cool, fun colored Mustangs, and he's just a chestnut. But you know what? He ended up being probably like my favorite one. He was difficult to gentle. He was a little bit of a wild child, and he was really scared. So he was a lot more difficult than Brazil. It was like I felt like I knew nothing about Mustangs again, and I was completely restarting. Anyways, got him really gentle, He was doing fantastic. He got to the competition. We were reserve champions, which is a big deal for me because I just feel like I was coming into this with barely any knowledge still. I had only worked with Brazil and Calliope and Calypso for a couple months at this point. Those were the only horses I had like trained or been training. And I was really, really proud of him for being reserve champion, especially how nervous he was initially. So then after the competition, I was like, okay, I gotta figure out a way, maybe get more part-time jobs so I can keep 3 horses. I really want to keep Chili. So then after the competition was in August. I had him until November, and we were going and doing horse shows and just the open horse shows. And I was bringing him to Equine Affair, and he was being a breed demo for the Mustang. And then in November, I think it was just a couple days after Equine Affair, I get a call around 8 p.m. that my horse is dead in a paddock. So I freak out. I drive over there. I'm just like hysterically crying. This horse was my favorite thing ever.
What?
I loved him so much, and I kept him because I was hoping to like keep him forever and permanently.
No.
He wasn't just a project that I was going to try to sell in a couple months. He was going to be my dude. I just felt a really close connection with him, and I thought it was important for him to stay with me because of how nervous he was at the beginning.
Crying again.
So when I got the call that he passed away, I got so worried. I had to have the vet come out and of course draw blood, but he had been passed away for a while, I guess, and it was a whole mess of a scenario. It took me a long time to recover from that.
Yeah, I get that.
That was tough. And that is the same year, 2015, that my horse Calliope got injured and had to be retired from show jumping. So that year overall was just pretty rough. Now that also was the year.
But
that
how
I started
did he
to make
die?
A lot of friends through the Mustang makeover, and I had those people really close to me. So I'm glad that I had those connections kind of as support through like that really tough time in November. March rolls around, and I wasn't gonna do another Mustang makeover. I was done. I didn't want to do it again. Like that situation just totally traumatized me.
Yeah.
But I decided to apply again. That's how I ended up with Lynx. He was my random draw, just like all the others. I picked him up. I wasn't really happy because he was a buckskin at the time. I know his color has changed like crazy, but he was a buckskin. And I was super bummed because I wanted a bay or a chestnut. And I got one of the like 2 buckskins that there were, and I was like, yeah, whatever. He got put into the chute to get haltered, and he was rearing up and almost got over the chute a couple times, and he was just acting insane in there. And I was like, yeah, I kind of like the fiery ones. Got him back, and he was the easiest Mustang that I've ever had. He was so quiet and kind
He
of
looks like
curious.
a donkey.
That's the biggest thing with these guys.
I mean,
and curious.
all the
sweet.
horses are
He was
so
just
cute
perfect.
though.
He was so easy to work with. He was goofy. He literally has the personality. The personality he had when he was 2 years old when I got him is the same exact personality that he has now at 8. He is a goop. And
So she still
not like
has
any
him?
other horse I had met before. So that summer went by. Of course, Calliope is still recovering, so she's not really in work. She's kind of just a horse that I groom and play with right now. And Calypso's growing up. She's a youngin'. She's 2. Lynx and I are training all summer long. We get to the competition. He wins all 3 of his classes and then is overall champion. He's a cool horse. He's a really cool horse.
Sleigh horse.
That was a pretty big point for me where I was like, oh, I kind of feel like I like training these guys. Maybe this is what I should do. Right after the competition, I had someone reach out to me about sending their horse to me for training. I was like, I don't even know how that works. I don't have a barn. I don't know much about this. But they were pretty persistent on it, so I found a place on Craigslist where I could keep the horse. That was only 2 minutes from my school, so I could walk there if I needed to after school, or literally I passed by there on my drive home. So that's where I met Finn the Mustang, and I got him going under saddle. He was my first official client training horse, and I did the best I could with him. He made it pretty far with desensitizing, and the owners were pretty happy with him. So now I'm heading into my senior year. Lynx was my last youth Mustang, so I applied for the Mustang makeover because it's in Massachusetts yet again, and this is when I get Malibu the Mustang. Now, Malibu was a pretty important training horse for me. She taught me a lot about certain checkpoints that I have to have with a horse before I move on to the next
It
thing.
reminds me of
She was the first horse
my friend works at a dog hotel, and one of the dogs is called Baco, like Bacardi Cola.
Lynx was still too young at this point, and I pretty much started Calliope under saddle, but Malibu would be the first one to actually be done in that 3-month training period. She got loose on day 2 into a state forest. That was terrifying. That was an experience. We were able to catch her somehow and get Dorm into her mouth and load her onto a trailer, which is pretty insane. That's pretty cool for a horse to be able to do. And then I decided that maybe I need some help with these adult Mustangs. So then I went up to Peter Whitmore. He is in somewhere kind of like in northern Massachusetts, and I boarded her there, and it was an hour away from my house. But I went up once or even twice a day to work with her because I knew it was super important that I got help and I kind of had someone at least overseeing it. I remember there was points where I was like, oh my god, can I just like have him get on the horse or just have him do this or this or this? And he never would. He would coach me sometimes from the sidelines, but he, I don't know, something in him like knew that I could do it, or he like thought I could, or he just really wanted me to do it. And I did. I took whatever piece of advice he would give me and I would take the most of it, and I would try my best, and we made it to the competition, and we made the top 10 in my first adult, and we came in 8th overall. That was a pretty cool, very big learning experience. After Malibu, I had graduated high school, I had gotten my first truck, and I was about to go to college.
It is so wild how she did all of this while she was in high school.
I had signed up for classes, I was getting my...
When I was in high school, I was studying non-stop.
And then I took all of the money that I saved up for college over the past couple years, and I put a down payment on a horse trailer. And then I was talking to my best friend at the time, who was going to go to Florida for the winter with her horses, because they had another house down there. And she was like, you should come with me.
Why not?
Okay. So I loaded up my horses for the very first time. I had never driven a horse trailer before. I had never hauled horses. Loaded them up, and I drove down the coast to Florida. My first time ever hauling horses. And let me tell you, after an hour of driving, I had the biggest headache. Like, I don't get migraines, and I couldn't function. I was like, my brain was overthinking so bad, and I was freaked out. I'll never forget that first time driving down and how much stress it was, even just after an hour of driving. I had to make sure I stopped frequently, even just for 5 minutes, so that I could relax, because I was so busy. Like, are my trailers in the lines? Am I driving okay? Is everything good? Are my horses okay back there? Am I driving too fast? Everything was going wrong in my head, and it was fine. It was really fine.
I also just want to add in that it wasn't really a super tough decision for me to decide not to go to school, because high school and middle school growing up was always really tough for me. I was like the classic bullying case. I didn't have many friends in school. All of my friends were like outside of school, and I was sticky notes on the back, rude things just said, kids laughing at me. So college didn't really sound like a pleasant environment. It wasn't the worst for me to not go. Damn. I mean, Calliope seriously saved me those years. Like, there was quite
honestly, it's a big achievement to be able to like tell all of this on YouTube then.
Definitely is the reason that
because
I was
in middle school I also kind of got bullied because
so many,
of my
like,
YouTube channel.
Problems too, to the point where I don't know if I was getting ulcers or what was happening. This might be TMI, but I had to get like a colonoscopy when I was 15. That's pretty awful for those of you that are like over the age of 50 that maybe have like gone through it and like the prep day for it. Imagine being 15 doing that. That really sucked. Anyways, I just wanted to add in that horses really changed my life in that sense. Like, they gave me
but actually what I meant is, like, I know a lot of people, like, back when I started with YouTube, who also did YouTube, and who quit because they got bullied. So not a lot of people
the barn owners, the
keep doing that.
All of, like, the more advanced,
even though I feel like she started
generation
later
at that
with
time,
YouTube, I'm not sure.
When they were mean to me, I still had my horses.
So I made it to Florida with all
that was me with my
horses,
cats during high school.
I was there for a month, and I had a lot of money saved up because obviously I wasn't going to college now. The down payment of my trailer wasn't all of the money that I had saved up, but I wasn't going to college, so I didn't have to worry about that. Within a month, though, of just working with my 3 horses, I was like, I don't know what to do because I've always worked so many part-time jobs. I'm kind of bored. So I message about 20 different businesses on Facebook and ask them, are you hiring? Do you need any help? Are there any job positions opening? And I got a response from maybe like 5 of them, and then about 3 of them were willing to meet me. I went out to a racetrack and the hours were like 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. and I almost took that one until another facility, which was a warm blood breeding facility, said, yeah, we'd like to have you out to meet you. So I came by, met her. She was like, oh, you sound great. The Mustang thing sounds so cool and all. We don't really need any help right now. And I was like, okay, cool. And I remember I met her on a Friday and I left. And then I was gonna call on a Monday to accept the racetrack position. And then the weekend happened, and then Monday morning I got a call from the warm blood breeding place, and they were like, hey, things changed. Can you come back out? We'd love to have you. And I was like, should I go there or should I go to the racetrack? And I was like, I don't know if I really want to be awake at 3 a.m., so let's try the warm bloods. So off to the warm blood breeding facility we went, and that's when I got my first batch of warm bloods to work with, and I had 5 of them in my first batch. There was Kay, Coco, Kara, DC, and Pac-Man. And then later on in that season, there was a couple more that came about, but I'll always remember those 5 as my initial 5. Oh, I also forgot to mention that my very first YouTube video was my journey with Malibu, my first adult Mustang. Okay. So that had happened right around the time that I moved to Florida. So now I'm working with all these warm bloods, and I still have my guys at home, and
so that was after high school.
Well, I even have one Mustang in for tip training right now, and then I signed up for the Kentucky Mustang Makeover, and I picked that horse up, and then on my 4th day with that Mustang,
she is cantering around the round pen and kind of bucks or kicks out, and she lands from a buck basically in a frog split, how a dog sometimes lays down, and breaks her hind leg.
Luckily, there was a vet on site of the barn I was keeping the Mustang at that was doing a pre-purchase exam, and it just so happened to be my vet. And he came over, and I had to call the BLM and get all the permission and everything to put the horse down, but she like snapped her hock in half. It was pretty awful. Their best bet was that there was already a hairline fracture there ahead of time. It was going to happen sooner or later. So now I'm devastated. 4 days into competition, this horse that I already started to love just broke her leg, and now I don't have a competition horse, and I just feel awful about this mare, and everything is just going bad. Some of my friends set up for me to get another Mustang and get a redraw. I didn't really know if I wanted one yet, but they did it anyways. That one was Edie. She came in, and she was probably one of my easiest adult Mustangs. She was very nice to have in training, and she was really good.
She looked so polite.
In March that I got her. And then in May, I decided that I wanted to learn a little bit more from some other people. So I started driving on the road. This was my first kind of season on the road, but it wasn't really teaching or anything. I started by going to Kentucky to Double Dan Horsemanship. My 3 are at home still in Florida. So I have Evie with me at Double Dan Horsemanship. I'm there for about a month, and then I go for 2 weeks with Ariana Zacharias in Kentucky again and learn with her. And then I go up to New York and learn with my friend Emma Mintier. Remember who else I learned with that year? I know I learned with Kayla Young in North Carolina. Oh, I also go to the competition with Evie. Forgot about that part.
I love the sitting backs.
Which is pretty cool considering she
the way they sit in there is so cute.
She also had pneumonia and was sick for a month. So we were behind because she was a redraw. We were out a month because she got pneumonia. Evie was really behind, and there was 45 people in that competition. She made the top 10. She came in 6th overall. I loved that mare, she was so good, and then my friend ended up winning her in the auction, and now she lives in Rhode Island, and she is an awesome little thing. I'm doing my internships, I go up to Emma Mintier, I'm in Massachusetts for a little while, and then I get pneumonia. I'm out for a month, and I remember this specifically because I remember this is when I taught Lynx how to rear, because I had this picture envisioned in my mind, and this picture was taken on his 3rd day learning how to rear. Yeah, I'll never forget that, because I remember I couldn't breathe at all, and every time I asked him to rear, I had to sit down for a minute, and then I would ask again and just keep hoping I would get a good one. So that was fun.
You can definitely tell I'm editing this on multiple days now because my clothing keeps changing. But I wanted to speed this part up a little bit because this video is getting really long. So I'm just going to go over it kind of quick. So after I left Massachusetts, I went to Katie Ketterhagen in Texas, and I interned with her for a couple of days. At this point, this is when I also met up with Kayla Young in Texas. and he picked up Fiesta for me. And then I flew back to
I really feel like her
drove down to
journey
North
really
Carolina
doesn't
and did a 10-day
go that
internship
smooth.
with him in that Mustang.
Constantly
So I
stuff
learned
happening.
kind of that method, how to get started. Then after that, I went to Florida. Now it is September 2019, and I'm back to training the warm bloods. At this point, I'm now living on site where I work. I don't live at the other property. I live directly on the farm. So basically September to January, all I'm doing is just training nonstop. I'm training Fiesta up for the competition, and I'm training a bunch of warm bloods mainly to get started under saddle. Fiesta is the first Mustang I've had that really displayed competition nerves. She was so anxious and nervous. She practically fell apart at the Mustang makeover, and it wasn't really a fair representation of the horse that she was, which is kind of unfortunate. Some of them just don't deal with the competition and the energy and the nerves all as well, and she was definitely one of them. I mean, at home she was riding bridleless and we were doing tricks, and she was just so soft and light, and at the makeover she definitely had a little bit of a tougher time. Luckily she landed pretty soft in California.
I mean, honestly it's kind of the same with humans, right?
Now,
Some
when the competition
they
with Fiesta ends in the
do stuff really well under pressure.
Right
Other people definitely don't.
Have
well, at home
loaded
they're
up
probably
on my
really
truck
good
and
at it.
trailer so I could drive
Same with horses.
2 minutes after I got off Fiesta.
They all have
Because I
different
had to make it back
personality.
to Florida in time to pick up my 2019 Florida Extreme Mustang Makeover horse, Boo. At this point, there's definitely more Mustangs coming at multiple times. This is
Every
now
time there's a new
January
horse, I'm just like,
2019, and Boo is picked up and at my facility, and I'm ready to go
I want a
back-to-back
horse named
makeovers.
Boo.
I don't know if I'll ever
He
do
looks like
back-to-back
a Boo.
again, but I was doing back-to-back at this point. Boo was my most anxious, nervous, scared Mustang yet.
Aw.
This was the
Yeah, I
Mustang
mean, he's
that
called
she
Boo.
saw
What
a
did you
human walk
expect?
towards her pen from half a mile away. She would just start running around her pen, like galloping around it. She was so nervous. She was very feisty. It took me 2 weeks to even get her tag off. Boo's competition was from January to May, and she taught me so much patience and how to stay calm, because if my energy was even slightly elevated, she was definitely running. She was just gonna go for it. It was so interesting though, because seeing a human just made her so anxious and worried initially, and I think probably around the 1 month point is when we started turning around and actually being able to get training aside from gentling training done. Meanwhile, during this, I'm still working with Calypso and Lynx and getting them more broke to ride. They're both starting to jump, and Lynx shows at his first jumper show, which is at Hits, which is a pretty big time show for jumpers, for those of you not familiar with the A circuit. So that was really fun, being able to represent a Mustang there. I'm starting to branch out and do things aside from just Mustang makeovers to be able to be an ambassador for the breed. And then we get to Boo's competition, and she wins first in handling and conditioning, fourth in her next class, and third in the following, which puts us in the top 10. And we come in 6th overall, and I think honestly this is simply because of the fact that her dumb trainer didn't exactly plan a great freestyle, and it was pretty bland and boring. She was an angel, she was a gem, she was perfect. So after the competition, she was won by Anne in Maryland, who actually owns a bunch of other Mustangs from Boo's band from Salt Wells. And now Boo lives there. She's eventing, she's doing dressage, she is killing it. She's a great little English prospect. And I think I had 14 training horses at this point, and I am so overwhelmed.
Snowball,
like, to the point where almost
Sonny,
every single
why do
day
they
when
all
I would
have
go back
such
down to my
cute
camper,
names?
I would just be crying and so frustrated and upset. I didn't have any friends in the area, so all I would do is work, literally, since it was Florida and it was so hot, from 4 a.m., because I fed the horses there too, 4 a.m. until like 7 p.m., and then I would like maybe work on some YouTube or post my Mustang updates, and that was it. That was my whole entire schedule the whole summer. I was just getting so fried, and I still at this point am learning how to start horses, and I'm just kind of winging it still. However, with Under Saddle, with Lynx and Calypso, I did start getting help from the barn owner at this point, so that was really good. She has more of a foundation in dressage, but she was helping me a lot with just jumping and kind of finishing them in a more like all-around aspect. So in August, I was really showing Lynx and Calypso at various jumper shows kind of all over Florida. And then in September, which is a full year of me living on the farm, I decided that I wanted to do the Texas makeover, and I wanted to start it with an internship at least. So I reached out to Katie and Craig, and I head to Texas all by myself, just Lynx in tow. Get there, get settled, drive up to Oklahoma, pick up my Texas horse, who is Roulette, and then drive back down to Texas and get started. Roulette was the complete opposite of Boo. She was definitely scared of people, but instead of running away, she would run towards them. She was aggressive and scared. At this point, I also started doing more consistent YouTube updates on my Mustangs. Rue definitely was the horse that changed me the most and helped me grow the most as a person. So I'm still struggling with not really having many friendships and being anxious around people still, but by forcing myself to do the internships last summer, like, I made myself communicate with people. No one was going to do that for me. I had to push myself out of my comfort zone and start getting comfortable around strangers and being able to communicate with them. After I was at Katie and Craig's, started traveling all over with her and Lynx between Arizona.
I honestly feel
California,
like a lot of stuff
Vegas,
she's saying,
Oklahoma,
I feel really like connected to. Like, it was for me like that too. But just for me, my hobby is like video and film, of course, and I had the same kind of experiences with film
driving
and film
around
school
the
and all
country
that.
with my 2 horses. I'll never forget that season of travel. I changed so much in that time frame. This is also when I got to meet Wileen Wilson, who's a really close friend of mine, and then, just traveling the whole country, it gave me so much more confidence. I was so anxious and quiet and scared of people, and I would get walked all over and taken advantage of, and I'm the person that would try to help everyone with everything and then kind of forget about my own stuff. So I started to learn that prioritizing yourself a little bit is better for everyone.
In this journey of traveling alone made me realize that I had so much more power as myself as an individual, and I get to decide the way that other people treat me, and I get to decide what I allow, and I get to kind of stand up for myself, and that's really important. Rue and I make it to Texas, and we're competing, and I'm super nervous because this is the big competition with all the really big name trainers. We place in handling and conditioning, which used to be my worst class. We came in 8th out of, I think there was 60 people at this competition, maybe a little bit more. We came in 8th. We were 11th in maneuvers, and then we were 18th in trail, and then overall we were just out of the top 10. I think we were in 12th overall. We were so close. She got to go home with someone who met her prior to competition. Her name is Sherry, another one of my really close friends now who lives in California. It's actually one of my training bases, technically.
I feel like you meet so many people through this
trail
horse community, actually.
Arena horse, lesson horse, she does it all.
After Roulette's makeover, I went back to Florida,
Wonder Woman.
I was there for about a month working with some of the training horses and getting them going a little more. I think I maybe got a couple started under saddle, but a month isn't a very long time to do much. And then I hit the road again, and this time it was a little bit more permanently hitting the road. This was another really important time for me. It's almost like Roulette was the catalyst into me changing a lot about my thought process and how I thought about myself, and kind of overcoming a mental battle that I had of not always feeling like I was good enough and constantly belittling myself and being so mean to myself and being that harshest critic and whatnot. But it's good to have that, but not to the point where it's over everything and you don't give yourself any credit for anything you're doing. Traveling helped a lot with that. Again, all of the time to think while I'm driving. This was right around the time that coronavirus started up, and it gave me a lot of time to work on liberty and tricks with Lynx, which of course is what my clinics are focused and specialized on. Before clinic season, I was in North Carolina for a while just working with Lynx, and I never really talked about why I kept Lynx. I never decided I was going to keep him permanently. He kind of just stayed, and I was like, oh, he's a project horse, I'll sell him eventually. And anytime someone wanted to buy him, I was like, no, he's not ready yet. And I kept saying that till eventually I was like, I think he's going to stick with me. So there was some connection between us, and he was just kind of, I don't want to say a normal horse that I owned in comparison to my 3 that I had for quite a while. He was kind of just fitting in with them, an amazing horse, but nothing I don't know. And I realized that he was basically my business partner at this point. This horse gave me so much confidence. He was so himself. Like, his personality is so insane and wild. If you've ever met him, you'll know what I'm talking about. This horse has the biggest personality. And for him to be himself, like, unconditionally, which of course he's a horse, they usually are unless they're like really mental blocked, but he was so himself, and I was like, you know, I'm kind of like that same level of energy that he has. I should meet it, which I know sounds weird talking about horses like that. I don't know if it sounds weird. I came more out of my shell because of his personality and how amazing he was. Like, what horse can you take cross country everywhere by themselves, and they are a pro everywhere, and they pony horses to help start them. They do liberty, they do tricks, they event, they do dressage, they jump, they do trails western. He lets me stand on him and walk. We also do really high energy things. Like, he is amazing. This horse was meant to be in my life and meant to be essentially my business partner for the clinics, especially. Sometime in 2016 when I got him, something in me knew that he was really special and he was going to need to be with me forever. Lynx taught me how to do liberty. Cute. I didn't really know what liberty was, and one day in a paddock he just kind of started like circling me. When I would like push him away, he would just go around me, and I was like, oh, I think I've seen this before, and we built off of that. Of course, we've had little tidbits along the way, like Double Dan, I got some things from there, Ariana, I got some things from there, but for the most part it's been Lynx and I just figuring it out. We then hit the road for clinics, which would seem awfully weird because I have anxiety around people and strangers make me nervous, and who thought that it would be a good idea for me to do this? Pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. That's why this was the perfect thing for me to improve in my overall life journey, because I needed to go from introvert to extrovert, and like I truly have became one. Now I talk to people at airports and random people I see. I'm just curious about everyone. I want to know everyone's story, and if there's like some way that we connect. I don't know, but I've definitely changed, and clinics have done that for me. It was terrifying. For my first year of clinics, I would have to listen to motivational podcasts with like earbuds in while I'm feeding Lynx like for the hour before the clinic started, and I'm just like, you can do this, you've got this, you're good, you can talk, you're fine. And eventually that went away because I made myself do it enough. And then I realized that I love teaching people and helping them improve their connection with their horses. So that helped with my anxiety. I've always been independent, but all of the traveling helped me grow with my independence and kind of expand my creativity so I could make this type of lifestyle work. I mean, I do have a pretty cool life and a pretty cool job, and I'm grateful for it, and I recognize that, and I've had to be really creative along the way to make sure it continues working. So Lynx and I have traveled everywhere from California to Wyoming, Kansas, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Texas, we're about to go international to teach. We've done a lot of traveling. I've met so many amazing
This seems like so
people
much fun though, just riding a horse in like the open,
taking people that
how do you call it?
I really
you know what
wanted
I mean?
in my life, but they didn't really care for me, and I kept trying, and I would give everything and there'd be nothing in return. So in return I would try to give more to make
just
them
like
want to be
vibes.
more part of my life, and that doesn't work. It's just an endless cycle of me never feeling good enough. So finally I got these people in my life that wanted a connection back. We helped each other out, and we were supportive, and it was positive, and everything was very good thinking. I can't list everyone because my brain doesn't always remember things, but Sherry, Amber, Erica, Camille, Janelle, Carly, Haley, Andrea, Mel, Anne, Alyssa, Megan, Wileen, and my friend Katie, who's from my second ever Mustang makeover. They've all helped me become more of the person that I am today. And of course my family has supported me despite, you know, horse people. Horses is a lifestyle, it's not just a hobby. I mean, look at my room from when I was a child. Everything revolves around horses. So my parents were supportive. They didn't really know how to be in this new area for them, but they were so supportive over whatever the heck I was doing, even though they didn't really know what I was doing.
Basically your
now there
future.
were a lot of people that were like, why are you not going to college? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just figuring it out as I go. And there was a lot of, again, going back to those barn people from the boarding barns, very judgmental and putting me down. And you know, then you start to think that you're like, oh, you're right, maybe I am not good enough. Anyways, I'm all just talking in circles right now. It's important to have a good mindset. Even the people that aren't in my life anymore have impacted me in a positive way of some sorts, and I feel like it's changed me in a good way. And I'm really appreciative of all those people that I have crossed paths with at some point. But when I'm doing this clinic season, now I have this kind of set into place, and this is current as of, what month are we in? Almost April of 2022. I spend 6 to 9 months on the road for clinics, traveling with Links teaching, and then 3 to 6 months in Florida, colt starting. Of course, I have all the EMMs going on still. I've had snooze and kiwi, and just recently I had a little tip Mustang smudge. I'm going to be doing another makeover, all of that still.
Honestly, if I hear this girl's story and people are like, why aren't you going to college?
Showing at
horses are her life.
Shows.
That is quite obvious. So
again, and we're trying to
I barely know this girl, but like I wouldn't see her do anything else than doing this stuff currently with the horses.
And it's fun, the
honestly.
adventures you get to go on when you're traveling. You never know what's next. You take every opportunity you can. Sometimes you're sleeping in the back of your truck 2-3 nights a week, and your horse is in a comfy stall, but as long as your horse is in a comfy stall, that's what matters. You can eat oatmeal, you can eat ramen. You gotta look at it as an adventure, otherwise you're gonna be like,
it does sound like a cool adventure.
It's fun. It's not gonna be like this forever, so you want to take it in while you can and really appreciate the fact that you get to do that. One of the newest parts of my journey has been starting Rising Talent magazine, which I thought of while driving, and I developed to be a magazine that promotes up-and-coming trainers and young riders of sorts, just to get them to grow their businesses a little more and maybe get their name out there and give them some of the recognition that they deserve, in my opinion. That's been really fun to work on. Throughout this journey, I've gotten a lot of really cool sponsors, and I'm so appreciative of them. The little girl in me is like, wow, sponsors are for like the big trainers who have made it, or the big horse people that have made it, and I don't know, it's just cool to have companies wanting to support what I do and allowing me to represent their brand.
That's really cool.
Before this turns into an hour-long video, which is probably already almost there, but I'm trying to cover a lot of years in this period, and I know I probably talked a little bit too in-depth on my horses, but they make my life, so I don't know what else I'm supposed to talk about. We're watching a Horse Girls YouTube channel right now, so what do you expect?
Basically
the
what I
horses have
said.
done so much for me, and they've made it so that I'm still here today. They've just made my life so much better, and I can't imagine it without them. Hopefully those of you that made it to the end kind of enjoyed
I saw a lot of
my
cool pictures in there.
horses.
I also really like the one where the horse was like, yeah, this, but then where she was riding the rest of the horse was like,
I'm
yeah,
really looking forward to continuing my horse journey and sharing it with you all.
Huh, that was it. Okay, it was very interesting actually. Like I honestly didn't have one moment where I was like, oh, this is a little boring or something. I mean, this girl is basically describing her entire life in a 15-minute video. I mean, I'm sure she has other things in her life, but it seems like most of it is revolved around horses. So I think it's really cool because she really like made her like hobby into some sort of job actually. It's kind of what I'm trying to do as well, but I just graduated film school, so yeah, I can kind of see myself in her sometimes. Like also the way she talks about how she has anxiety around people and all that, but then there's like horses and her hobby and the things she can really find herself in. I kind of have that with like making videos on YouTube, making movies. And I also realized that we are around the same age. I don't exactly know her age, but she said like in 2016 she was around 15, 16. Well, me too. So I think we are around the same age. So it's very interesting to see someone's journey, and also when she like showed the years, like this happened in this year and then she talked about that year, and then you do kind of compare yourself to it, like, oh, what was I doing in that year? Oh yeah, that kind of, I mean, it's just funny to like hear someone's life story, 10 years actually, yeah, like what they did in the same 10 years. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but yeah, it's really interesting to see. I do think I also understand the stuff she makes a bit better now, because I already reacted to the Mustang video before, where she trained a Mustang, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool how you can train a Mustang like that in a year, and it was fun to see, but I didn't really have a backstory on this person. And now I hear this story about her journey, her 10-year journey. And it's so interesting. Like I said before in the beginning, like her family wasn't even a horse family. She just found out herself like, oh, this is really cool. I like this. I want to do this. And look where she's now. So I think her journey is really inspiring and interesting. Just the way she kind of travels, well, for now, America, she said, but she wanted to go international. The way she kind of travels the world by, doing what she loves. It's really cool. So, beside that, all the horses, they're so cute. Honestly, even though I don't have that much with horses, I just love animals in general, actually. So then I just see the horses and they're just kind of smiling and the cute faces and the cute names. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. So I can really enjoy a video like that, just because if it was only about like the horses and videos of the horses and their names, I would also be amused because horses are pretty cute. But yeah, it was a really interesting video. I don't think I have that much more to say. I'm curious to know what you guys thought of it. And if there's people who know more about horses or whatever, I'm especially curious about your guys' opinions. And yeah, then I think that was my reaction. So did you like this? Then please leave a like, subscribe. And if you want, you can request your own video through my Patreon. And then that was it. Bye!